everyone, and welcome to LawSikho's thorough newspaper analysis for the 18th of April 2023. So today we will be having news updates and legal news update in the first sections, and then we will be moving on to the editorials for today. And we have three editorials for today: going national, collecting voice samples to aid investigations, an issue in same-sex marriage. Now, for the first national news of the day that we have regarding Canara Bank, Canara Bank and NPCI have launched cross-border bill payment service for Indians in Oman. Now, Canara Bank has achieved a significant feat by becoming India's first public sector bank to provide inbound cross-border bill payment services through BBPS. This breakthrough means that Indians residing in Oman can now conveniently and securely pay bills for services in their home country with ease. Next up, we have a news regarding RBI. That is, Karnataka Bank has been authorized by RBI to collect direct and indirect taxes. The Reserve Bank of India has authorized private sector lender Karnataka Bank to collect taxes and indirect taxes on behalf of CBDT and CBIC. Bank customers are already enjoying seamless online payments for custom duty by selecting Karnataka Bank in the Indian Customs Electronic Gateway, ICE Gate, the portal of CBIC. The ICE Gate portal of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs provides e-filing services to the trade and cargo carriers and also other trading partners electronically. Thirdly, we have IAF to deploy Rafale jets to first overseas exercise. Now, India will be deploying 4 Rafale jets, 2 6 C-17 aircraft, and 2 IL-78 mid-air refuelers for a nearly 3-week multinational air exercise at France's Mont-de-Marsan military base. It will be the first overseas exercise for the Indian Air Force's Rafale jets. Fourthly, we have B.R. Ambedkar statue. Now, India's tallest Ambedkar statue was unveiled recently. The Chief Minister, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, unveiled a 125-foot bronze statue of B.R. Ambedkar in Hyderabad to commemorate the 132nd birth anniversary of the renowned Indian constitution architect. The statue is the tallest of Ambedkar in the country, made of over 360 tons of steel and 100 tons of bronze, and cost nearly rupees 145 crore. Ambedkar's grandson, Prakash Ambedkar, was invited as the chief guest of this unveiling event. Next up, we have Amit Shah confers Maharashtra Bhushan on Appasaheb Dharmadhikari. Union Minister Amit Shah conferred the prestigious Maharashtra Bhushan Award on veteran social worker Dattatreya Narayan Dharmadhikari, popularly known as Appasaheb Dharmadhikari. Shah felicitated the 76-year-old by presenting a shawl, a citation, memento, and a check of rupees 25 lakhs. The social worker, in turn, donated the check towards Chief Minister's Relief Fund. Next up, we have National Museum of Natural History and State Museum, Lucknow, signing an MOU. Now, under this MOU, multidimensional efforts will be made in organizing programs for school and college students to create awareness about nature. The National Museum of Natural History was established as one of the national level institutions during the Silver Jubilee celebrations of India's independence. And it was done to portray and promote the awareness on the natural heritage of this country. Next up, we have Nandini Gupta crowned as Miss Femina Miss India World 2023. Rajasthan's Nandini Gupta has been crowned Femina Miss India World 2023. The model, 19, comes from Kota in southern Rajasthan and has a degree in business management. She will be representing India at the Miss World 2023 pageant, which is being held this year in the United Arab Emirates. Now, we also have Rublev getting the long-awaited reward with the Monte Carlo title. Andrei Rublev made the most of Holger Rune's nerves to win a seesaw Monte Carlo final on Saturday, as Russian talent was finally rewarded with a Masters title. It was Rublev's third attempt in a Masters final after failing at the final hurdle here in Monte Carlo and Cincinnati in 2021. Next up, we have CREDAI signs up with Building Council for green projects. Realtors apex body Confederation of Real Estate Developers Association of India, or CREDAI, has partnered with Indian Green Building Council to facilitate its members to develop certified environmental friendly housing projects. The association has pledged the development of 1,000 green certified projects in the next 2 years and 4,000 projects by 2030. Next up, we have G7 ministers commit to move to carbon free power by 2035. After a 2 day G7 ministers meeting on climate, energy, and environment in Japan, ministers and envoys from the member countries vowed to work towards ensuring carbon free electricity production by 2035. The meeting was held ahead of the G7 summit, which is scheduled to take place in Hiroshima in May. During the meet, the G7 members also committed to fast track the phase out process of fossil fuels and natural gas, but no certain deadline could be decided for this initiative to take place. Next up, we have the segment of international news. And in the international news segment, we have European Space Agency mission to Jupiter's icy moons have been postponed. The European Space Agency has postponed its mission to Jupiter after weather forecasters flagged a risk of lightning strikes at its spaceport in French Guiana. When Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede, while Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede are frigid ice-covered moons, 3/4 of a billion kilometers from the sun, previous missions have found evidence for vast liquid water oceans beneath their surfaces, raising the tantalizing prospect that living organisms might eke out an existence in these distant worlds. For the next international news update today, we have World Hemophilia Day 2023. World Hemophilia Day is celebrated every year on April 17th to honor the birth anniversary of Frank Schnabel, who established the World Federation of Hemophilia. The theme for World Hemophilia in 2023 is Access for All Partnership Policy in Progress, engaging governments to integrate inherited bleeding disorders into national policy. The initial goal of celebrating World Hemophilia Day in 1989 was to advocate for better diagnosis and accessible care for people with hemophilia. Next up, we have Europe's most powerful nuclear reactor kicks off in Finland. Finland's much delayed and costly new nuclear reactor, Europe's most powerful one at that, has completed a test phase lasting over a year and started regular output, boosting the Nordic countries' electricity self sufficiency significantly. The Olkiluoto 3 reactor, which has over 1600 megawatt capacity, was connected into the Finnish national power grid in March 2022 and kicked off regular production on Sunday. Next up, we have US emerges as India's biggest trading partner in financial year 23 at 128.55 billion US dollars. China is at second position. According to the provisional data from the commerce industry, the bilateral trade between India and the United States has risen to 7.65% to reach 128.55 billion in the fiscal year 2022 to 23, making the United States of India's largest trading partner. Meanwhile, India's bilateral trade with China decreased by approximately 1.5%. According to the data, China was India's top trading partner from 2013-14 session to 2017-18, and again in 2020-2021. Prior to China, the UAE was India's largest trading partner. Now, for the legal updates today, we have same-sex marriage recognition. Supreme Court notifies composition of a five-judge bench. The Supreme Court has now notified the composition of a five-judge bench, which will be hearing the batch of petitions that seek legal recognition of same-sex marriage, and also rights like tax benefits and right to adoption of children. Previously, a three-judge bench, which was being headed by the Chief Justice of India, had referred the case to a constitutional bench for hearing. Next up, we have bank can't forfeit deposit made after auction fee purchase when bidder wasn't even informed of challenge pending against sale. Rule 9, sub Rule 5 enables the bank to forfeit the deposit amount on default of the auction purchaser to deposit the balance bid amount within the stipulated time. In this case, however, the Supreme Court noted that the auction purchaser was not informed by the bank about the challenge pending in the Debts Recovery Tribunal against the auction purchase. Rule 9, sub Rule 5 of SARFACI rules cannot be pressed into service since the auction purchaser was not informed regarding the proceedings and pending before the DRT at the time of auction or even thereafter. And this was held in the case of Mohammed Shariq versus the PNB and others. Next up, we have Order 7, Rule 2 CPC, inconsistencies and plaint averments, not a sufficient reason to reject a plaint. The Supreme Court observed that a plaint cannot be rejected under Order 7, Rule 2 of the CPC merely because there are some inconsistent averments in the plaint. While the ground pleaded for rejection of the plaint is the absence of cause of action, the court has to examine the plaint and see whether any cause of action has been disclosed in the plaint. And this was held in the case of G. Nagaraj versus BP Mruthunjayana. Next up, we have the editorial sections for today. And firstly, we have the editorial going national. Now, why is this editorial being discussed? Well, as we recently know, AAP has been elevated, the Aam Aadmi Party, AAP has been elevated as a national party, while the West Bengal dominant party, Trinamool Congress, has been revoked of their title of a national party. So basically, the Election Commission has recently revised the list of recognized national and state parties, after which these announcements were made. Now, the first question that arises is what is the process of recognition? The process is stipulated under the election symbol. Now, the first question that arises here is what is the process of recognition? So the process is stipulated under election symbols reservation and allotment order of 1968. The state party, to get a recognition, must fulfill the following conditions. A party must at least get 6% of the votes that have been polled, or at least two MLA, or 6% of the vote share and one MP from that state in the last Lok Sabha election. Now, for a national party to get its recognition, 6% of vote shares must be there in four or more states, and they must have at least four MPs, or they must have at least 2% of seats in the Lok Sabha with candidates from at least three states. Now, why does this entire status of recognition matter? Now, there are some benefits of being recognized as a national party by the Election Commission. Firstly, you have an unchanged symbol for the party across India. That is, your symbol becomes a national, like a national symbol for the people to recognize you by. Secondly, there are also free broadcast times on Akashvani and Doordarshan that is given to the national parties during elections. Thirdly, national parties can also get 40 star campaigners that shall not be counted in the accounts of the candidate. Fourthly, the stand of the EC in this regard is also legitimized. Now, a lot of questions may arise that is it even right to take away a party's recognition once they have gained their position as a national party or a state party? But the stand of EC in this regard is legitimized in the Janata Dal versus the Election Commission of India case in 1996. And the biggest advantage of being recognized by the Election Commission is that they get a chance to sit with the Election Commission for consulting regarding election dates and setting inputs for electoral rules and regulations. Next up, we have collecting voice samples for investigations. Now, why is this in the editorial news today? So, what happened is Congress leader Jagdish Titler has appeared before CBI to deliver voice samples in lieu of CBI, claiming that fresh evidence has surfaced and they will now basically test his voice recording from now back to the time when charges were leveled against him to ensure that whether they are the same person or not and whether the charges that have been raised against him are correct or not. So the first question is how are voice samples taken? Now, generally, the individual whose voice sample is to be taken, he is made to sit in a controlled and a noise-free environment. And then he is instructed to repeat some sentences from the same speech that is being used as an evidence. After recording his speech sample, the CBI will then ensure that the pronunciation of the vowels and the consonants will be analyzed with the original sample that is being used as the evidence. Now, the question that arises here is that is it legal? We do know that fingerprints are taken and there are also DNA tests that are carried out on the accused. But is voice sampling really legal? So, on this regard, the criminal procedure in India does not talk specifically of taking voice samples. And in order for the police to do the same, they must obtain the permission of the court or the approval of the individual. Now, Section 53 of the CRPC talks about medical examination of the accused on request of the police officer. And for a long time, it was considered that when we are talking of medical examination, they would generally be DNA tests or fingerprint tests or retina scans. But voice sampling was considered as a direct violation of the fundamental rights of the accused. Now, it is in the 2013 case wherein the SC held that the collection of voice samples was not really a violation of fundamental rights of the accused if it was being done in order to further the investigation at hand. And a similar stance was also maintained and corroborated by the Punjab and Haryana High Court in 2022. Thirdly, we have perhaps what is the greatest legal issue of today, that is the issue in same-sex marriage plea. Even as we record this thorough newspaper analysis, I am pretty sure a lot of you must be going through YouTube or other social media channels where you get to see what is happening exactly in the same sex marriage plea that's being heard. So the issue arises because a five-judge bench has been selected to hear the batch of petitions that seek legal recognition of same sex marriage. Now, what have the petitioners argued? Well, a same sex couple from Hyderabad have stated that they do not enjoy the rights of marriage, even though they are a couple. Now, the petition seeks to legalize homosexual couples and their marriage. And through this petition, the petitioners also seek to include rights of adoption and automatic inheritance of tax benefits and maintenance and alike, which is already there legally recognized for heterosexual couples. But what have the what have the central government stated on this? So the central government has stated that legalizing same-sex marriage would be a judicial creation of a social institution which was not previously there. And when we're talking of such judicial creation, it is only the center who has a right to make such changes. The central government has also gone forward and contended that when we're talking of marriage, because of its nature as a social institution, it's not just the wish of two people to marry each other, but it must also have some sort of a credibility based on the societal norms and the way society views and accepts marriage. And presently in India, we do not accept that on a larger scale society. But the question that arises then is that is this the end, or are there any judicial precedents before this? Or is this the first time that the government is or the judiciary is approaching such a problem? Well, no, actually, in the case of Lata Singh versus the state of UP, which was in 2006, Lakshmibai Chantaragi versus the state of Karnataka in 2021, and a couple of other high court judgments, the judiciary have repeatedly agreed that adults can marry any person under their choice. And this is supported by the fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 21. Also, in the Navdeep Singh Johar judgment, the Supreme Court held that the LGBTQ people have a full range of constitutional rights. So this was all for today. For free study materials and TNA PDF slides, please join our Telegram channel, the link of which you can find in the description, or you can also scan the barcode that is given on your screen. You can also mail support@lawsikho.in for any support that you might need across this vertical. And please follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep getting regular updates about the thorough newspaper analysis.